This is the News 4 Rundown.
Hello, everybody, and welcome in. I'm Jim Adley. Here are some of the top stories we're following for you tonight. Coming up, day 2 of testimony in the au pair affair trial in Fairfax County. More on the shocking revelations today in court. Plus, it's the first day of the legislative session in Maryland and Virginia. The top priorities lawmakers in both states are focused on over the next few months. Then a promising new report that shows more people are surviving cancer than ever before. The tips doctors have for you on how to stay healthy and live longer. So we begin tonight with rain on the radar. We're tracking showers across our region before we get hit with some really cold temperatures. Storm Team 4 meteorologist Jessica Faith is here with us tonight. So when can we expect this rain to let up?
Well, we haven't had much so far this evening. We will see just a few additional showers, light in nature, maybe even just some sprinkles tonight, and then it's over with. Going into Thursday, back to dry conditions, back to sunshine. Not back to the mild conditions. We're actually getting much colder tomorrow. I think that will be the big headline, how cold it's going to feel tomorrow and how long this cold will last. Looking at the radar, just a few showers off to our west, right around I-81 for Winchester, Luray. Those around D.C. still dry, so great for your dinner plans. That rain starting to trickle in a little bit more. We'll see a few additional showers later tonight. Here's 11 o'clock. Look at just how light it is. A lot of green and not going to last long. Throughout the overnight hours, we are clearing out the rain. We are clearing out the clouds. Back to the sunshine by 7 a.m. tomorrow. But again, the cold will have been settled in and the winds picking up. So the wind chill will be a factor. I have a look at your wind chill forecast hour by hour just to show you how cold it's going to feel. Back to you.
All right, Jess, thank you. Now to the au pair affair trial in Fairfax County. The second day of testimony has wrapped up this evening. Brendan Banfield is accused of killing his wife and another man back in 23. Prosecutors say he conspired with the family's au pair, Juliana Perez Magalhaes, to carry out that crime. The defense began cross-examining her today, which got testy at times. Our Northern Virginia Bureau reporter Drew Wilder has the latest.
The au pair was on the witness stand for every single moment of the second full day of testimony today, and prosecutors started by pointing out one of the elephants in the room. Look, Juliana got what some would call a sweetheart plea agreement in exchange for her testimony against her former boss and former lover, Brendan Banfield. Once the defense took over cross-examination, they pointed out in that plea agreement, and they also said that, look, here's a woman that hasn't ever wanted to tell the truth until all of a sudden she was offered this sweetheart plea. Take a look as Juliana entered the courtroom today. This was a very dramatic moment yesterday when Brendan Banfield watched his former lover walk in front of him, and he just locked eyes with her all the way to the witness stand. Today, he was a little bit more reserved as Juliana took the stand and stood on the stand all day. When the defense took over cross-examination, they started to draw attention to that plea agreement and say that she's only talking now and saying these things because she gets a sweet deal out of it. They also said that she's getting a pretty sweet offer from a production company. Juliana admitted that while she was in jail and having correspondence with the outside, she was talking with a producer of a documentary film company who offered her $10,000 for the rights to share her story in a documentary. Juliana then had communications with her mother about that, saying, "We deserve this." That word deserve is something that the defense jumped on and attacked her, saying, "You were charged with murder. What do you think you deserve?" Listen to the exchange.
You were charged with murder because you shot someone. Am I wrong?
No, you're not.
And so why would you deserve something because of that?
Not because of that. I didn't say that I deserve something because of what I did.
Once the defense was done asking Juliana questions in cross-examination, the prosecution came back up and had its chance to redirect a few questions, and not a whole lot came of that. But when the day was wrapping up, as with every witness, the judge asks if the witness is subject to recall. Both parties jumped up and said, yes, she's subject to recall. What does that mean? That means that she's still subpoenaed. She's still under oath, and there is a high probability that we have not heard the last of Juliana during this trial. She might be recalled to the witness stand at some point. Testimony resumes in the Au Pair Affair trial tomorrow at 10 a.m. Reporting in Fairfax County, Drew Wilder, News 4.
Drew, thank you. The question now, was Perez Magalhaes an effective witness for the prosecution, or did the defense poke holes in her story? Here's what NBC News legal analyst Kristen Gibbons-Fedden had to say today.
I think she was effective for the prosecution. I think the defense scored some very good points. They talked about the selective memory. The defense repeatedly forced the jury to confront the pattern where she couldn't remember key details that would lock her into hard proof, like who had the laptop, who typed what, who physically had control of the device when certain communications were happening. I think the defense also scored some other points by talking about, as you kind of alluded to, that she's not just a cooperating witness, she's someone with something to gain. That producer testimony that she's communicating with producers was bombshell. And I think that really matters because it gives the defense a simple and powerful argument. If your freedom's on the line and your future may be profitable, the jury has to ask whether the story is being told because she wants to do the right thing for justice, or is it packaged for survival and benefit? I think that overall she came off better for the prosecution. She explained the memory gaps through trauma. And I think jurors can really understand that. Most people understand that people don't experience crises like a script, right? And even though she was combative and testy at times, she didn't look lost. She looked more like someone who was determined not to be controlled in that moment by that defense attorney. And I think that matters because the prosecution does not need her to be perfect. She is a murderer, but they do need her to be believable enough for the jury not to just outright dismiss her. So the defense didn't land the clean impeachment that I think would have made her like cooperator status and testimony collapse. And I think the prosecution wins on this one because because the jury's going to walk away saying, yes, she's flawed, but she didn't invent this.
Of course, we're streaming the trial live on YouTube and at NBCWashington.com. Tune in for a special weekly recap every Thursday night at 7:30 with Erica Gonzalez and Drew Wilder right here on NBC4. Lawmakers are back at work in Annapolis and Richmond. Today begins the legislative sessions in both state houses. Both delegations are looking to address key issues, including health care, housing, and affordability. Lawmakers in Maryland say immigrant rights and protections will be among their top priorities this year. They'll also have to deal with a more than $1 billion budget shortfall. News 4's Darcy Spencer has the latest from Annapolis.
Hey, hey, ho, ho, 287G's got to go.
Outside the State House in Annapolis, anti-ICE demonstrators call for legislation meant to protect immigrants in the state. Democratic lawmakers are proposing a ban on 287G programs that allow some sheriff's offices to cooperate with immigration enforcement.
We're here to greet legislators. We're here to make sure that these 90 days, immigrant families have to be the very first and top priority this session.
The demonstration comes on the first day of the General Assembly session. Lawmakers are promising to fund legislative priorities like education and public safety, while also cutting programs without raising taxes to close a budget shortfall in excess of $1 billion.
The biggest concern is the cuts don't do harm. And if, to the extent they do harm, that they harm the least, don't harm the most vulnerable or cause the most damage.
Delegate Jeffrey Elong Jr. plans to introduce a bill to set up a commission to investigate the deaths at Boys Village, where hundreds of abandoned graves were recently rediscovered in Cheltenham.
It will establish a task force to right and repair the wrongs and make sure that we are uplifting history when it's being torn down and destroyed all around us, and really bring closure to a chapter that was very dark in Prince George's County.
The GOP wants to set up a committee to investigate state fraud and waste. Republican lawmakers plan to push an agenda of affordability and accountability.
The budget situation is significant. We have to address that with intelligent cuts as opposed to with tax and fee increases.
And Joseline Pena-Melnick was elected House Speaker. The Prince George's County resident is an immigrant from the Dominican Republic. She's the first Afro-Latina to hold the speakership.
This is an era of national political division and economic strife. But we got this. We got it.
When the governor releases his budget plan, we'll learn more about what spending cuts he's proposing. He does say tax increases are off the table this year. In Annapolis, Darcy Spencer, News 4.
Now to Virginia, where the first day of the General Assembly session is usually mostly ceremonial. Not today. With their new sizable majority in the House, Democratic leaders immediately started pushing ahead 4 constitutional amendments. Within the hour, the House approved all 4. As Northern Virginia Bureau Chief Julie Carey reports, one of them is in the national spotlight, the plan to redraw congressional districts.
The member of the Virginia House of Delegates.
The 2026 Virginia House of Delegates sworn in, Democrats celebrating their 64 seats, a huge majority, and a record number of women in the chamber. And with Democrats still in charge of the Senate, they quickly flexed their muscle, fast-tracking a resolution that could bring new congressional maps. They say President Trump's push for Texas, North Carolina, and other states to redraw their maps to favor Republicans forced their hand.
Virginia literally cannot afford to let the system continue to be rigged. So here in Virginia, we will let the voters decide whether they want to live in a dysfunctional new normal of a rigged system or fight back.
Democrats insist no new congressional maps have been created yet, but they promise to have something to show to voters by the end of January. Then, if approved, the constitutional amendment would go to the voters in a special election in April. Republicans recognizing they don't have the numbers to stop the measure, hoping voters reject the plan.
I think it's going to ruin what we call the Virginia way. I mean, you know, anytime you have one party rule, you have policies that often go into place that are not the greatest policies out there.
But affordability, bringing down costs, remains Democrats' chief focus.
People want us to bring down the cost of gas and groceries, housing, and health care. And so we're on a mission to do just that.
Before the gavel fell, lawmakers were visited by both the governor and governor-elect. News 4's camera capturing the unusual moments.
I'm doing the rounds at the caucus meetings to say hello to everybody.
Democrat Abigail Spanberger, who will be sworn in Saturday, stopping into both Democratic and Republican caucus meetings, earning applause in both. Governor Glenn Youngkin, for a time, manning the Capitol Information Desk. The Republican governor also popping into the GOP gatherings before bumping into his successor and offering a few words of advice to soak it all in.
4 years at the beginning of 4 years seems like a long time. And at the end of 4 years, it seems like the blink of an eye. And so, thank you. Wish you the best today.
Thank you.
Good. Thanks, everybody. I'm going over here.
In Richmond, Virginia, I'm Julie Carey, News 4.
The other 3 constitutional amendments would go before voters in November. They include a marriage equality measure and a constitutional amendment to protect reproductive rights. The Senate is expected to take its final votes on the resolutions on Friday. We'll be following both legislative sessions over the next 90 days in Maryland, 60 in Virginia. Be sure to download the NBC Washington app for the latest developments in both states. Much more to come tonight on the Rundown, including the cool down heading our way. Jess?
Yes, and I am tracking a few light showers ahead of the cool down. It'll be out by tomorrow morning, back to the sunshine, but the colder air will be here along with high winds. I have your wind chill forecast coming up.
All right, Jessica just gave me some great news. I can dash home for dinner and not get wet. Right now, it hasn't hit.
Yeah,
DC.
So not D.C. And once it does come in, it'll be just some light rain, some sprinkles maybe.
Okay.
So not a lot of coverage, not a lot of impact. What will be impactful is the cold air tomorrow.
Yeah.
But let's go ahead and take a look at the radar to see what we have. And not much. We finally have a little bit of light rain moving into Loudoun County around Leesburg, throughout Frederick County. So crossing over I-81, trying to push east. Again, additional light showers, sprinkles later tonight. Here's 10:30, maybe seeing some around D.C., and it's not lasting long. Most of us will be inside in bed around that time. The rain and the cloud cover wrapping up overnight, so by the time you head out tomorrow morning, the clouds are out, the rain's out, back to the sunshine. You will need your sunglasses and your heavy coat. Tomorrow's high only getting into the lower 30s, around 33 degrees, along with blustery conditions. So we have a cold front coming through. The air behind that cold front is cold and coming in strong from the west, coming in at about 30 miles per hour. So pair in that cold air with the strong winds. It will feel like we're in the teens to start the day and the 20s during the afternoon. So we're looking at a really cold day tomorrow. Cold again on Friday with highs only in the 30s. We tick up a bit on Saturday, 48 degrees. Now, before you get too happy about that, do know that I am tracking a chance for a little bit of snow transitioning to rain quickly during the first part of the day. We are colder on Sunday and wind chills will be in the 20s, but at least right now we're looking quiet. So let's go through Saturday. Here's an early look. This could change. You'll want to continue to check in with us for the very latest. 6 a.m. on Saturday, we'll see those snow showers move in. Here's 8 o'clock, so a little bit of snow where you see that bluish white color there. Throughout the morning, that continues. A little bit of rain to the south trying to mix in around 11 o'clock. So if you're getting brunch, you could run into a few issues on the roads. I would recommend maybe a late lunch, maybe even dinner, as all the activity continues to clear out. So colder on Sunday, and heading into next week, we stay pretty cold. Those overnight lows even getting down into the teens. Tuesday morning and Wednesday morning, overnight lows for many days in the next 10 days are in the 30s. At the end of next week, our temperatures get back closer to normal into the 40s. But overall, this is a cold 10-day forecast, and it's starting tomorrow.
All right, Jessica, thank you. This week, some promising news for your health. The American Cancer Society says more people than ever are surviving cancer. News 4's Amy Cho sat down with a cancer survivor today from Reston, who's now giving back to others, and got some tips from a doctor about how you can stay healthy and prevent illness.
When it comes to cancer, Darlene Parker is all too familiar. She was just 18 years old when her mom died of lung cancer.
I wish my mom could have lived longer into my adult years so that I could have done things for her. I could have taken her on trips. I could have taken her on cruises.
5 years later, Darlene herself would be diagnosed with breast cancer.
It was scary, and there was a time when I thought I wouldn't see my 40th birthday.
She later had melanoma as well, but she beat the cancer both times, and now, decades later, is doing well. According to the American Cancer Society, the 5-year survival rate back in the 1970s was about 50%. Now in the present day, it's gone up to 70%.
I'm just so thrilled that things have been so wonderfully set forward. We have this opportunity now that people can live longer.
So what's behind the increase in survival? The American Cancer Society says it's thanks to early detection and better screening rates.
And then also there's been really magnificent breakthroughs in treatments for certain cancers.
Dr. Christina Annunziata says researchers are now doing more studies on cancer survivorship, or how patients do in the years after treatment.
We have more people who are surviving, and we want them to not only just survive, we want them to thrive.
As for Darlene, she now volunteers for a program called Road to Recovery through the American Cancer Society, where she drives cancer patients to their appointments.
I'm thrilled that I can have any part in helping anybody in their cancer journey.
A survivor now giving back, as these new cancer numbers offer hope on the horizon for so many. Amy Cho, News 4.
The American Cancer Society says there is still work to be done. Cancer rates are going up in young adults under age 50. Cases have increased for certain types of cancer like breast, prostate, pancreatic, and liver and melanoma cancer in women. Stick around. In the News 4 Rundown, we'll be right back after this short break. Well, in just a matter of weeks, folks, the world will be watching history being made in Milan when the Winter Olympics begin. One Maryland university is already building deep connections to Italy, not through athletics, but through language, music, and culture. As Jumio Labanji reports, for these Morgan State University students, learning Italian is opening doors in ways they'd never imagined.
I don't think I would be as connected, which people in the audience, they can see.
An Italian flag shines as music major Alexandria Kelly's voice commands the attention in a Morgan State University classroom. Kelly isn't just singing Italian, she's embodying it.
Once I got to this class, suddenly I can see words that I can understand, so I can connect more with the music and more with the story of the music.
The sophomore student is just one of dozens enrolled in Morgan State University's Italian language program. The Maryland University is the only historically black college or university in the nation with this curriculum. The program was born in part by music majors eager to better understand the classical works in their repertoire.
And I was told by Dr. Helen Harrison, who is the chair of the Department of World Languages, that there was always an interest, especially from the Department of Music.
Dr. Nicolino Applauso helped spearhead the program in 2018. It immerses his students in Italian culture through direct experiences with music, food, history, and even study abroad opportunities.
I developed a specific connection with the Afro-Italian population in Italy as we went on experiential learning. So it's very important for the student to connect with a student from African descent, being historically black college here, that we fostered this community awareness in Baltimore and Maryland.
For students like Sinai Lucas, their Italian journey begins as a graduation requirement, but later becomes a revelation.
So my study when I went there was about citizenship for Black citizens there in Italy. And basically they were talking about just their barriers with racism there. And so that was really important for me to look at, in a different lens.
The program goes beyond speaking the language. It also helps students see parallels between Italy and the United States. Connecting with the Black History Foundation in Italy helped Lucas graduate. She says the experience expanded her view of Italy and herself within the country.
That was probably my favorite part, actually, getting a chance to immerse myself with people of color that weren't in my culture, but in another, and trying to find themselves, and still dealing with those battles that we're dealing with in the United States, but they're still not feeling seen. They're still not being accepted as who they are.
Traveling abroad isn't the only way these Italian language students sharpened their academic futures.
It's really good to challenge yourself, and I really do enjoy speaking Spanish and speaking Italian, and since I want to be a juvenile defense attorney, I really think it would be helpful for me to, get in touch with all those different cultures and everything.
Italian is definitely a tool. I'm a philosophy major, so I definitely read a lot of Italian philosophers. So having that vocabulary now, it will definitely be a resource for me.
As the world turns its eyes to Italy for the Milan Cortina Winter Olympics, these students say cultural understanding matters now more than ever.
I really hope that the world continues to do this work where we care about other people's culture aside from our own and also respect it and want to indulge in it too. Just because it's not your culture doesn't mean that you can't find something of interest in it.
That's beautiful. Morgan State's Italian language program is supported in part by Italy's Ministry of Foreign Affairs and International Cooperation, as well as the Associated Italian American Charities of Maryland, which created a scholarship fund back in 2019. So far, 13 students have received scholarships to study Italian, helping open doors for tomorrow's leaders. NBC4 is your passport to Milan Cortina. Our Jumia Labanji will be there live, bringing you all the action and excitement from Italy. You can watch it all live right here on NBC4, February 6th. That's going to do it for the rundown. Be sure to join us right back here at 11. Have a great night, everybody, and stay warm out there.